Thank you. I'm also rather old. I've been working in games since 1998, and that's kind of relevant to this talk because it is rather historical, just like me. So, like you, I really believe strongly in the cultural importance of games, and that's no longer so controversial. But this talk is really to give a sense of what it was like to feel the way we do maybe 15 or 20 years ago when that feeling wasn't so popular. So to do that, I guess I'm going to talk about this project we did called Escape From Woomera. It's done by a team of people, just call ourselves the Escape From Woomera Collective. And we made this project in 2003. So to give you a sense about, I guess, the feeling of this game, there's a place called Woomera. It's in the South Australian desert, and it's one of the, apparently, according to some websites, one of the strangest, most secret places on Earth. So strange that it falls off the edge of my slide. Oops. So if you want to test weapons, say if you're the British government and you want to secretly test your stealth drones, for example, or do some rocket launches, any kind of weird, mysterious thing, go to the Area 51 of Australia. You can also incarcerate refugees if you don't want people watching you do that either. So deep in the desert, there was a place called the Woomera Immigration Reception and Processing Centre where Australia locked up refugees. Welcome to Australia. This is where you're going to live for the next few years while we process your application. And there are a number of centres like this around Australia, often in the desert, but this was the most notorious of them. And it was open from 1999 to 2003, when it was finally closed. So as you may or may not know, Australia has for a long time been notorious for its mandatory detention of refugees. Where these refugees would be locked up, as I said, for years on end while their applications were processed. Most of these refugees were accepted. Australia is a signatory, like Germany, to the 1951 Refugee Convention, which obliges them to accept asylum seekers and, assess them and accept them into the country if they are found to be genuine refugees. That's another debate about what a genuine refugee is. But most of them who came were, the vast majority, and they came from places like Sri Lanka, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, places of war and persecution that they were fleeing. And this policy, why were they treated so badly? Why did they have to live in such a horrible place? There are actually tarantulas and snakes and stuff as well as weird rocket launches and weapon testing in this area. The reason was it's a policy of deterrence. So make it as horrible as possible to claim asylum in Australia, and maybe they won't come. But this didn't work. They kept coming. I just got to warn you, this is quite disturbing, some of this to watch. This is just to get a sense of how violent and controversial this centre was. You notice in this video, you don't get to see inside. You just see stuff from the outside. You see the fires, you see the riot police, you see people once they're taken away from the centre and, disappeared. And so this was a place which the Australian public was extremely interested in because they saw from the outside what was going on and they wanted to see inside. But journalists, film crews, they weren't allowed inside. They couldn't film inside. They had curated visits occasionally, but it was not possible for the public to really know what was going on. And they just heard rumours and stories. So I'll just move this, get rid of this disturbing slide. So yeah, that obviously these people were victims, and it was a horrible experience for these people. However, these people were also inspiring. They're inspiring to some members of the public like me, because they were escaping. They were holding mass escapes, secret escapes, meticulously planned escapes, improvised, spontaneous escapes. They managed to get out. Some people were managing to get out, and some of them are still living in the community today, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, that's an important. I guess our game was called Escape From Woomera, and that's basically why. Well, I mean, for me, I didn't want to make a game about. I didn't want to make a misery simulator. I wanted to make, you know, a game about people who were fighting, not just kind of suffering. So I thought, you know, this is a great subject for a game. Oh, sorry, back. Another reason, obviously, perhaps not so obviously, another reason why I thought that this is a good topic for a game is that, as I said, journalists and documentary filmmakers could not get inside, but game developers can do something that they can't. They can recreate a place that that other people can't see, and allow people to see it. So, you know, we thought, let's model this based on what we know about what's inside, and let people come inside to this horrible place and see what it's like. So, just the context for wanting to do this game. These are some of the shitty games I was making in Australia at the time. And as you can see, I was making, I was on projects, we're making games for Americans, basically. No, I've got nothing against Americans, but, nothing to do with my interests or my culture, and nothing to do, we were Australians making games like this. Meanwhile, my lived experience was, I was involved in the refugee rights movement. I was a member of an organisation called the Refugee Action Collective. And so, I was frustrated. I had previously went to starting in the game industry. I was interested in VR art, which is now fashionable again. But it was kind of a thing in the 90s. People said it was the next great art form. And so I kind of thought, I'll get into games, right? Because games are kind of virtual reality without the head-mounted display. And this is the next art form, surely. But how wrong I was at the time, And I felt like I was waiting for it to happen. I thought, well, all I have to do is wait for a bit and things will change in the industry, and I can start making the kind of games that my friends in film and TV, make the sort of culture that my friends in film and TV are making. But it didn't happen, and so I thought, well, fuck it. If you want something done properly, you got to do it yourself, right? So, So the game we made, it's a first-person adventure sort of stealth gameplay 3D game. All the content is based on real-life escape plans and stories that we gleaned from our interviews with former detainees. We also knew people inside. I had a friend I rang in detention every week for a chat. And we also got some documents leaked from the Department of Immigration that got us access to maps. We had to do it as a total conversion modification of Half-Life. I won't go into why, but let's just say that cheap, inaccessible tools or game engines were not so prevalent in those days. And it's only a prototype, so there's only 30 minutes of gameplay. It's a kind of a vertical slice of the game that we really wanted to make. So, so the process to get this game made kind of started around 2001, and I spent 2 years trying to build a team and finding some funding for the game. And these are just some of the, quotes, some of the reactions I got along the way. People were horrified. Some people were horrified that the idea of making a game about this subject matter. They said, just don't call it a game. Like you'll freak people out if you call it a game. Funding bodies would say, look, we fund art, we fund interactive screen-based art, but we don't fund commercial products. And you can spend half an hour trying to explain to someone why a game can also be a non-commercial experience, and people just won't understand you. Like, it's just, their brains explode before they can get their head around that. I mean, not anymore, but this is kind of what it was like. The topic itself was extremely controversial. Half the country, this might sound familiar, half the country thought these people were terrorists, Muslim terrorists who were going to, ruin Australian society. Half the country thought, come on, these are, people we should welcome into our community. So people kind of said, well, this topic is too hot. You can't touch this topic. It's explosive. Maybe make it science fiction, put the refugees on a boat, like maybe make the guards animals. This is what people said. Change the name. Don't call it Escape From Woomera. Call it something like Refugee, because Woomera, even the name Woomera was this kind of an escape, Jesus Christ, you can't do that, people said. And I kind of listened to them and I was influenced by them, and in the end I said, oh, fuck it. No, you're wrong about every single one of these things. And we just did what we wanted to do anyway. And it turned out okay. So when we finally managed to get a bit of funding, we just called it art, and the Arts Council of Australia gave us a bit of money to make a prototype. And boy, did they kind of regret that. Some people blame us for the gutting of arts funding and digital media in Australia, which has never recovered to this day. That's probably not true. But the Minister of Culture did commission a parliamentary inquiry into the funding of our project. The Minister for Immigration said that we were facilitating and inciting illegal activity. The public was divided, but we got a lot of public support. And most importantly, and what we really wanted to do, was to spark a debate about the role of games in wider culture. And people had to address this issue about, can you actually make games that aren't just, gratuitous entertainment? And people started saying, actually, yeah, I think you can. And other people said, no, you can't. Yes, you can. It became this kind of... People started talking about it, right, in Australia. Within the government agencies, Human Rights Commission said that we were demon spawn. But, all the detainees that we were in touch with, and, the activist organisation that was part of, they were helping us, so they were fine with it. Yes. People didn't really know what to make of what we'd done. Obviously now people have a firmer idea of how to categorise different games. But along the way, there's been different ways to talk about our game that people have used. So first of all, obviously, don't call it a game, because the word game has negative associations, so you should call it an interactive hypothetical documentary or a CD-ROM or something. Some people have called it a documentary game. It's fiction, so that's interesting. Some people have called it art. Again, not a game, it's art. An activist game. political game, tactical media. I don't know if people remember the Critical Art Ensemble and Italian Autonomism and Negri and Heart, and it was very, very big in 2004. So in 2004, what we had done was tactical media activism. Like, these kind of fashions come and go. Early on, people called it a serious game, and then later on, people have called it a social impact game. And to me, it's really, it's kind of, you could argue it's some of those things, but I think it's just a game. Because even though I was strongly encouraged back then to feel ashamed about being a game developer, and just to give you a sense, like, just imagine, like, you're at a party, and you're at a party with creative people, and you're chatting up a writer or something, or they're chatting you up, hopefully, and they find out you're a game developer, and they say something like, because they think it's funny, how does it feel to make trash culture? Like, oh, you're a game developer. Like, now it's kind of cool, right? Like, the game of life, Hasbro's game of life, like, one of the jobs is, firefighter, another one is game designer. Like, kids want to be game designers, right? But back then, there was this real feeling like you were a second-class creative. And so I got this massive chip on my shoulder, and I still kind of do a bit, like, and, if people wonder why I'm bitter, like, I just really, really fucking piss me off, right? So I'm proud to say this is a game. I'd like to see a social impact film, because people just call them films, right? I think all games are social impact games. I've worked on pony games. They have a social impact. Their impact is sexism. So, so people have often asked, did you change, what social impact did this game have? I don't think it had any social impact, really. But, that's unsurprising. I mean, this is a topic that was already a hot topic in Australia. People were aware of what's going on. And I'm not going to go into it now, but Australia has arguably got even worse with their asylum seeker policy. You can Google that, it's quite horrifying. It might remind you of what's happening with the outsourcing of refugees to Turkey right now. And you might sort of think maybe Europe got the idea from Australia, because that's exactly what Australia does. It outsources its problems to the South Pacific region. So I guess one positive thing that, hopefully a number of positive things came out of our project, but one positive thing, I guess, like I said, that I was in a state of permanent rage during the, trying to get funding and interest for this project. This rage translated into me thinking, gee, what we need is some cultural legitimacy and recognition so that, other projects like this can get funding, right? And also, so we can say, fuck you to the mainstream industry with all their sponsored sessions, seeing your boss on stage giving, your bosses and your ex-bosses giving each other industry awards, that's also induces a bit of rage. So our big fuck you was, 2002, I started trying to get interest in this idea of doing an indie game development conference, and that became Free Play. I met Marcus Westbury, who's a great festival organizer and general kind of genius, and so that's a conference that's, now it's a festival that's still going in Australia, and I just wanted to say that I guess my feelings of rage and bitterness were not all negative. Some positivity in the world. This is a constructive act of positivity, I feel. So yeah, if you want more information about the project, sort of got some archival links on this website here. That's the contact details. There's kind of more information about the project and various essays and articles written by some of these people here. You can Google that, and that's how to contact me.
Thank you, Katharine.